Here's what's coming up on today's show.
That could be a good option, especially like you just said, Nick, if they're young. They can have a little bit more risk. They can, take advantage of the market gains potential because they're young and they still have a paycheck coming in. So that could be a viable option if it's available.
Welcome to the Income for Life Show. If you're looking for some common sense retirement planning ideas and want to hear how we make the complex financial world simple, then listen up so you can learn how you can stay retired. The Income for Life Show is powered by Folds of Honor, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to providing educational scholarships to the families of America's fallen and disabled service members. Now, here are your hosts, Matt Nelson and Nick Schilling.
Welcome to the Income for Life Show with your hosts, Matt and Nick, powered by Folds of Honor. Thank you very much for spending a little bit of time with us here on your busy day to listen to our ideas about how we could maybe help you stay retired. And as usual, I am here with my partner, Nick Schilling, and we have a heck of a topic that we're going to be talking about today, Nick, and I'm pretty excited about today's show because this particular show is really going to help people that are really struggling right now when it comes to this unemployment stuff. So, Nick, before we jump into this, how was your day going? How have you been?
Fantastic. Glad to be here. And I agree with you, Matt. I think the topic that we have right now is very pertinent. It happens all the time and people need to think through this. But right now, because of where we're at with COVID and the economy and everything else, I think a lot more people are and will be fairly soon having to come up with this and having to think through this process that we're going to talk about today. So I think it's going to be a good topic. I think it's going to flow along with our topics that we've done on previous shows, and there's going to be a thread of consistency there, but we're going to get into some new things that I think are going to be really good to talk about.
And the topic of today's show, just so everybody is aware of what we're going to be diving into today, is going to be what happens whenever you leave an employer. What happens with your retirement account? What can you do with your retirement account? Maybe you are leaving that employer because you are retiring, or maybe you are going on to a new career with greener pastures, or whatever the scenario might be. Or, sadly, what we're dealing with here in 2020 is a lot of layoffs. It's a lot of I had to make a decision, and I was forced to leave where I am right now. And we see this all over the place. We see it, sadly, with how many millions of people had lost their job over the past 5-6 months, Nick, that the numbers are astronomical, and they're not stopping. It's still going.
Yeah, the unemployment rate right now is down from its peak, but it's still way more than we've ever seen in the history of unemployment filing.
In the history of anything that we've ever experienced, this year's been the worst.
Correct. And in times of great volatility like this, where we're kind of waiting on government support to help out and stabilize massive industries like retail and service work and airlines that are literally waiting on a foundation of support from the government so that they can continue to employ, maintain their programs that they have so that people don't have to change careers and look for new things. But in the end, it's a reality that we have to think about. Unfortunately, right now, it's something that's top of mind for millions of people. And I think the topic that we're going to walk through will be helpful for anybody that is dealing with this or knows somebody that is, that they can listen to this and hopefully gain a little bit more framework as to what to do, how to think about it, and know that there are resources out there that you can go to.
And there's also one of the industries that is kind of on the cusp of sadly getting hit by this pretty hard, is one that people often wouldn't think about too often, and it's the higher education industry. The higher education industry is going to be feeling these effects as well because they are state-run groups.
Great point.
So whenever you have a university or whatever, they are feeling crunches more than a lot of other organizations are that are maybe in the private sector.
Correct.
So the education industry is going to have some significant changes as well. And we're going to discuss some of these options.
That's a great point, Matt. And, just the concept to think about it as rudimentary as we possibly can, right now is one of the first times in a long time where students are rethinking or reprioritizing how much they're spending for kind of post-secondary college education, what they're getting for that in the value, because we can't congregate or aggregate 25,000 kids on campus as easily right now. No matter what your politics are on that, the colleges are making their choices.
Yes.
So they're deciding who can come, what college looks like, what it feels like to these college students, and how much it costs. Let's just say that there's not too many discounts. So they're having to choose. And when people choose and they choose not to come, they're not paying that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of tuition. That causes colleges to have to make some decisions. And we're going to see that now and in the future.
Absolutely. And that is going to be our topic today, is what to do with your retirement plan when you leave an employer. And how you leave is obviously there's a lot of different ways you could go about that. You could leave on your own, and it could be a wonderful thing. Sadly, we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing a lot of I had to leave. So what do you do with that retirement account whenever you leave that employer? So we're going to dive into that topic here in a little bit. But before we do that, let's recap real quick, Nick, about last week's show, how we were kind of ended it with the retirement shift. You remember how we were discussing that?
Yeah.
And we were diving into the 3 C's of retirement, which we talk about on every one of our shows, how the 3 C's of retirement are the foundation for retirement planning. And it's the foundation of what we believe in here at Income for Life as well. And you can learn all about the 3 C's on incomeforlife.org. That very well could be where you're listening right now. You very well could be listening on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. There's many different podcast venues out there. But the best way to learn and to hear what we're talking about is on our website at incomeforlife.org. And when you go there, we have a very designated section that discusses the 3 C's of retirement, which is your checkbook, your calendar, and your clock. Checkbook, how much is in there? Calendar, when is more money coming in? Clock, how long will that last? And the 3 C's in correlation with the retirement shift, Nick, really falls into what we're going to be talking about today about people that have to do something with those retirement accounts.
That's exactly it. There's a 100% parallel to what we talk about as kind of the foundation of thinking about retirement. And then when you start to walk through the options you have when change occurs with your current employment, that becomes the fundamental way to think about it. When you have 4 or 5 different options that you can choose from, how do you begin to prioritize which one of those I do? And the way you do it is to go back to the 3 C's, figure out what's most important for you, the timing that it's at in your life, in the economy, and in the environment around you, and figure out with a local advisor or somebody that you can talk to what the best option is for you.
And control what you can control.
That's the exact point.
We talk about it all the time. When it comes to proper retirement planning, you need to control what you can control. And today's show, we are going to go through the 4 ways you can control how your retirement account could stay with you whenever you are leaving that employer. Because think about this. If you're listening right now, and if you have been in a situation where you left a job, or whether it's by choice or sadly by not your choice, you leave that employer, people typically grab that box, right? They got that empty box that they go get so they can clean out their desk, right?
Yep.
So you go to your desk and you got your pens and you got your coffee mug and maybe the photos of the kids or whatever it might be, maybe even that plant that you have on your desk, right? Everybody knows this.
Correct.
So you're there and you're cleaning out your desk and you're getting everything to take home. But a lot of people don't realize that they could be leaving the most valuable asset sitting right there on their desk, and that's that retirement account. Wouldn't you agree?
Agree. And in almost every circumstance, that is the most valuable asset that they're grabbing.
It better be more than the plant.
Correct. Not that you don't want to make sure you get the pictures and everything else that you have that has some sentimental value to you. But when you're talking about the things that you've sacrificed, what you've saved, and the program that's there, you better understand where that is, what options you have, and how to actually take action on those options. Because what we're going to talk about today is we no longer have pensions anymore in most circumstances.
They're almost completely gone.
That's not an option for most employers to give to their employees. We're talking about corporate savings plans like 401ks that companies offer to employees where they can start to build up a nest egg. And when change happens, what do we do with that nest egg that we've been taking out of our paycheck and tossing into this savings account in this vehicle to be able to start to build up this retirement nest egg. Companies have been contributing to it. You've been contributing to it. There's probably a pretty good pot of money there. Hopefully. And what do we do with that? What options do we have? There's 4 main options that everybody has and can choose from, and we'll start walking through those now.
And as we walk through those 4 options with you, it's important, Nick, I believe, for everybody to understand that what we're talking about right now is not exclusive to the 2020 COVID mess that we're in right now.
Good point.
The idea of being able to take your retirement account with you applies all the time, any scenario, any year, wherever you're at. It will always apply. Now, it used to be, like you were talking about pensions just a moment ago, it used to be that people would stay at an employer for 20 or 30 years. You would maybe even retire there.
Yep.
You could then retire with a pension like you were talking about.
Get the gold watch and take your pension. Yep.
That don't exist anymore. You get your watch and you ride off into the sunset. And you could maybe be there for 20 or 30 years. But the average length of stay at an employer today is 5 years. So that means you're jumping around. You're going from place to place. You're not staying in that place for 20, 30 years anymore like you did in the past. So just because, God forbid, somebody's getting laid off, or, for example, you're at one of the big airlines and you're one of the 50,000 that is now facing this all across the country right now because it's so top of mind right now. Correct. Or you're one of those professors or one of those administrator at a local university that is now going to be experiencing this for the first time for yourself. Just because all of this is front and center this year does not mean that this is not prevalent all the time, everywhere around the country.
This opportunity, as you said, Matt, when somebody's at a job for 5 years or less on average, this opportunity for a rollover and the options that they have is happening more frequently. So people need to be aware of what options they have, and depending on their stage of life, their framework, and all these things will help them prioritize.
And
which
it
one
is an
best.
opportunity. I'm glad that you said
Correct.
that, because if you are having any sort of a job change, whether it is on your own or you were forced out of a position, it's kind of a scary time. I mean, you're changing, you're going through a new deal. So it's always going to be a stressful scenario. But what people don't realize is that this also opens up a window of opportunity with their retirement account that they very well did not have available while they were still working there. So the opportunities that open up for being able to control what you can control with your retirement account,
Agree.
Those opportunities are tremendous. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through these 4 options, or these 4 opportunities, that when someone is leaving their job, whether by force or by choice, what they have the ability to do with their 401k, their 403b, their whatever they have in their retirement account. What options open up for that? So Nick, why don't you start us off with number 1, which is you could always cash it out.
Perfect. Yeah, and as we walk through these things, we want people to understand we're going to try to give in your mind's eye some visuals that's going to happen with this, but you can always go to our website at incomeforlife.org and actually walk through our page that has all of this information on there. So when we walk through it on the podcast, sometimes it's good to have a place where you can go reference and read through these options.
Absolutely.
That kind of talk through it. So bear with us as we kind of try to give a framework and visual to these options, but you can always go to our website as well. So the first option, as you said, Matt, is cash it out. Now, with that being said, it definitely is an option, and it is an option. But we would, as advisors, only in emergency circumstances, only in the most dire of situations, would we ever say, yes, go cash it out. And even if then, we would probably come and say, let's sit down and see which parts of what's needed, why it's needed, and how much you need to cash out.
And this is an example, Nick, of it is an option. Doesn't
Correct.
Necessarily make it a good option.
Correct, because there's so many penalties that go along with cashing out a retirement plan, where when we say retirement plan, we mean something that the government, the IRS, has designated as a plan specifically for retirement that gets tax advantage protocols, maybe tax deferral or tax-free distributions at some point in time. So because they give those opportunities, they give those value of tax deferral or tax-free distributions, depending on what accounts you're in, they also put some parameters on the back end that if you don't use it for retirement, if you use it for emergencies,
or you tap in early.
And by early, we mean, 59 and a half or early 60s, depending on where the tax law is now, what you can use this for, there can be some significant, not only taxes on it, but additional penalties.
But cashing it in is an option, so we have to talk about it, right?
Correct.
Now, in this COVID-19 crisis that we're in, the government has issued a little bit of forgiveness, if you would, on some of these penalties. Not all of them by any means, but they understand that people are in a crisis situation, so they are forgiving a little bit of penalties, but it's still not a good idea. If you can avoid doing it, you don't want to do it because, like Nick just said, the penalties that are involved. If you're typically younger than 59 and a half, there's an IRS government penalty. There's taxes because if you are making, let's just go easy math, you're making $100,000 a year in an income,
Correct.
And all of a sudden you cash out an IRA or 401k, and for that given year, let's say that was $300,000 in an IRA, that just became considered income. So you are now at a $400,000 income year.
Correct.
Welcome to the highest tax bracket that we have out there. So I hear people all the time like, well, I'm going to cash this out, and okay, you need to understand the tax ramifications of that.
Correct. And even though there's some more forgiveness right now because of our current economic situation, I would still push everybody, if they're thinking about that, talk to an advisor about it as well. And
that is a perfect example of whenever I often ask some of my clients, I said, so how many beneficiaries do you have? And they say, well, I have 3 kids. I say, okay, you have 4. They're like, no, I just said I have 3. I said, no, because your 4th is Uncle Sam, because Uncle Sam is going to take a chunk of this.
And they get it first.
So the first option is not the best by any means, but it is an option, and it is cash out. So let's go ahead and go on to the second one, Nick.
Perfect.
And the second option that you have is simply leaving it where it is.
Doing nothing.
Which
is almost never a plan, but it is an option.
It's an option, not a plan, but it's an option.
So you can leave it there. And the 401k or retirement plan administrator will allow you to just leave the account there, almost in an abandoned format.
Kind of limbo.
It's in limbo. You're no longer able to contribute to it.
They are no longer contributing if they were in the first place.
Yep. Your employer, if they were matching certain things or contributing depending on the plan, they're no longer doing that. So your plan, your retirement nest egg, if you just leave it there, is kind of in stasis. It is static, going up and down with the investments that you previously had. The scary thing is sometimes you lose access to be able to get and look at those accounts and make changes. So, the speed at which you make these decisions kind of helps. If you've left something there and it's 2, 3, 4 years old, you might have lost all the logins and all that kind of stuff to understand what to do with it, make changes, and do the rollovers. So making sure you keep that stuff up to date and actually handling these things and making these choices as soon as you possibly can when this opportunity comes up can help.
And absolutely. And what I run into a lot, Nick, and I know you do as well, is at that time when it is stressful and you're leaving the job and everything, and you were comfortable maybe where you were, it's very easy just to say, I'm just going to leave it alone. I don't want to mess with it. I just want to leave it there.
It's the last thing I want to think about.
I don't even want to mess with it. I got too many other things going over here with this new job change or not having a job or whatever the scenario is. I don't want to mess with it. So I'm just going to leave it there. It wasn't hurting me. It wasn't doing, it was doing good over the last 10 years anyway, right? Because the market's been up.
Yep.
So might as well just leave it. Okay. You can do that. That's an option. It's not a good option. We would still recommend that over cashing it out more than likely, but it's a choice that you can have. But Nick, you're exactly right. They're no longer managing that for you. They're not watching it for you. If you had any sort of contributions that were getting matched by your employer, that is no longer. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's just kind of just in a stalemate, just there.
Changes to those plans, sometimes you're not getting updated on it, meaning all of those updates and email notifications are maybe going to your work account.
Yeah,
and now
exactly.
they're not going to your personal account. So fundamental things of you just lose touch of it. You just lose access to it. And again, it's not a great option. It's definitely better than cashing it out depending on your situation, but it's something that we would advise taking control of and understanding why and what you can do and when, because it will help you in the long run, especially as the amount of changes that people are making right now.
Absolutely. And you lose access to that HR person that had been helping you the whole time as well.
Correct.
So there's just so many things that could go sideways with just leaving it there that people don't typically think of, but when it's fresh and on their mind, when they're trying to leave and they're gathering everything up in that box, they're just like, I'm just going to leave it there. I don't want to mess with it.
Correct.
So we would obviously recommend you get a hold of that and control what you can control. And that is an example of something that you can control, is taking accountability for that and not leaving it there. So that is the number 2.
You're exactly right.
Now let's go ahead and talk to the third way. And that is just simply transferring that account over to your new employer's retirement account.
Perfect.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because sometimes that is available. It's not available every time by any means, especially if they do not have the exact type of plan that you had before, like 401k to 401k or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So that option of being able to transfer it over to your new employer is not always even available, even if you want to, right?
You're exactly right. But now we're getting into the options. These last 2 are going to be, these are the good options.
These are the good ones.
These are the ones that when we start to take control of it, these are the options that you want to really look at and see, is this an opportunity for me? So, and this typically takes place maybe in the circumstances where you're choosing to change your career and leave, and you find a new great opportunity, and what are you going to do with that retirement plan from the previous place? Or maybe in a situation where you were laid off or the career changes were made for you, but you find a new opportunity, a new career, a new job pretty quickly. And you're able to then make those choices pretty quickly as you go, is to roll over that plan to your current employer, to your new job.
Your new job.
And this is really an opportunity, especially for these younger employees that really want to continue to contribute to these plans, continue to get a match, and have time on their side.
That is perfect.
Time on their side is the thing that's going to help everybody in these things, because constant contributions are better over time than just appreciation. When we get into the next one, we'll talk about that difference and some decisions that go along to it. But typically we're talking about people in their 20s, 30s, maybe 40s in here that they got decades, multiple decades to continue to contribute to this plan, to continue to get match and max out and optimize the amount of match that they're going to get from these employees. Rolling these plans over to your new plan can be a great option for those individuals.
It could be the best option.
Yes.
And there's a lot of times whenever people are calling us, say, hey, what do I do? Right? Because that's, that's what a lot of people do in these scenarios. They reach out to the person or people that they trust to say, what do I do with this? And so we get those calls all over the country all the time. So one of the first things that we are always asking is, what is the option of that being able to just transfer over to your new employer? Will they match? Will they give you some credits? You do your amount you're putting in. Will they, help you? That could be a good option, especially like you just said, Nick, if they're young and they can have a little bit more risk. They can, take advantage of the market gains potential because they're young and they still have a paycheck coming in. So that could be a viable option if it's available.
That's exactly it. And just being able to think through the advantages of maintaining and adding to that corporate retirement plan versus an individual one, depending on your age and current situation. Corporate retirement plans allow more contribution opportunity with your individual contributions and a match. They allow you to contribute, depending on your salary and depending on the year, more than individual plans do. So that can help if you have the time on your side to be able to say, I'm looking at this in the long run, to be able to take advantage of some of these almost strategic tax advantage plan opportunities to be able to continue to do this. But once you get to a certain point in your life, then those opportunities diminish a little bit, or at least they change in the outlook of how we want to look at it, which then gets us to our fourth opportunity.
You got it. And the fourth opportunity is the opportunity that I would guess probably a majority of our clients access.
Correct.
Because it is a very unique opportunity that they now have that they did not have available previously. And that is the rollover, the 401k rollover, the retirement rollover. That is the process when you can take that employer plan and move it and roll it over to your own IRA that you can control and you can maintain. So let's spend a little bit more time on this, because this is the process where you have the most control and you have the most choice of how it is invested. It can be invested in a multitude of ways.
Correct.
But the fact of the matter is that you are in charge and it is your account. And the opportunity to do this before 59 and a half, for example, is now prevalent where it wasn't before. So let's talk about how you can benefit from rolling a corporate retirement plan over to your own IRA.
Correct. And you just said it right there, Matt. Before, in the third option, another great option, you're rolling it from corporate retirement plan to corporate retirement plan if you got age and time on your side, and the contributions will help. Now we're talking about people in a stage of their life where they've built that nest egg up. Now we're talking about people that are planning for retirement, putting pencil to paper and putting a plan down of here's what we want retirement to look like. Here's a lot of the resources we're going to use to accomplish that. And we're talking about people in their 50s and 60s here, that all of a sudden this nest egg has done its job for a long period of time. Not that it can't grow further, but what they really need to look at is, as you said, Matt, when you talk about rolling it from corporate plan to an individual plan, now options are your choice. What can I utilize this to do, and what options are out there for me to choose from that can almost optimize what I'm going to use this vehicle and this nest egg for to create the plan I want in retirement. In corporate plans, you have the options that corporate plan provides, and those are minimal. They are more for contributions and appreciation.
Correct.
They're for the growth of that plan. When you're thinking about rolling that nest egg over from a corporate plan to an individual plan, that's when you get into, I want to earmark this retirement money, this nest egg, for a different purpose. Now it's, what can I do to set it up in the best way for that money to, when I choose to, start working for me, as opposed to the other way.
You're exactly right, Nick. And so when you are at this point and you're looking to roll over this retirement plan, I feel like it's very important to take people back to why that retirement plan is there in the first place, right?
Exactly.
So you think about this. Let's pick an age, Nick. Let's say you're 55 years old.
Correct.
You are in the middle of potentially losing your job, okay? Because that's what people are thinking about right now. So let's just kind of go down that path. I don't care if you're, like we said, at the airlines or one of the universities or whatever it might be.
Not a fun scenario, but it's real.
Not a fun scenario, but it is real. So you are in the process of losing your job. But you have this retirement account, right? And we talked about this on the other shows. It's just sometimes common sense should be a big factor in this. So you got this retirement account. What is a retirement account for? Retirement, right? Okay. So whenever you retire, you have a retirement account.
And right now, that's probably, along with my home, my biggest or second biggest asset that I have.
Absolutely. And when you retire, you no longer have a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks or every month or whatever your scenario is. So the goal is to have Social Security and your retirement account continue to pay you income for the rest of your life. So you have this retirement account that is there for retirement that needs to eventually replace your paycheck, right? That's the idea of it.
That's exactly it.
So whenever people are 55 years old, and sometimes even significantly younger, we have some younger clients that are already doing this as well. They want to set up that paycheck with this money.
Yep.
So yeah, you could roll it over to that other, accumulation plan that maybe they are offering. Yeah, you could do that, but it's not an income plan. Maybe they could cash it out, but that's going to be a taxable event, not a guaranteed income plan. So the ideal way to take a retirement account and actually set it up for retirement purposes is have this into a plan that can be a pension style guaranteed income for life payment plan. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree 100%. And the first way to start doing this when you're trying to decide is, one, talk to an advisor.
Absolutely.
2, make a plan with that advisor. Have that advisor help you lay out a plan. And this becomes much more important when you start to get into the late stages of your working life. And that's when we start to talk about option number 4 a lot with our clients, is that plan is in place. When and how do we start to segment out and earmark different assets or different segments of assets? It's not like you have to use all of one thing
Correct.
for a specific thing. It's really starting to get detailed in our approach. It's no longer just general, we have time on our side, accumulation is what we're going for. It's not that. It gets much more granular. When you talk about distribution, when you talk about having your money that you save so diligently for need to start working for you, you got to get very specific with that plan.
Absolutely.
And it's got to be to the cent of what's going to happen, because guarantees are needed. Structure is needed. A lifestyle is required, and we got to get really specific with it. So sitting down with that advisor, laying out that plan, and getting really specific with the options that you have. Now
Right.
that if you're before 59 and a half, this opportunity wasn't available to you.
Absolutely.
So you might have to look at, well, I still got years left, but is now the time when I want to start to earmark certain things? Maybe it's because I've built up a nest egg and I want to pigeonhole it for this, or maybe it's because I want to start taking it into my own hands because maybe the next 10 years of market accumulation doesn't look as rosy as it did the previous 10 years.
Especially going on right now.
Exactly. And that's why we bring it up.
We have so much turmoil and volatility going on right now. It's ridiculous. And I know, Nick, that you and I have been discussing, kind of the, God forbid, but the bad side of,
Correct.
we facing a layoff.
They're not
or we
fun
lost
stories.
Their
Yep.
job or whatever it might be, because that's prevalent in people's mind right now. But the other side of that happens all the time as well. Maybe you have worked at that job for 15, 20, 25 years. They have a 401k. Now you're hit that 59 and a half mark. You're not leaving that employer. You like where you work, but now you can take control of that 401k.
Great point.
So majority of 401ks, you are able to roll that money out into your own IRA and not leave that employer. You can still be working there, but you can then take a chunk of that out and make it safe and guaranteed, because if the markets are scaring you a little bit right now,
Correct.
or the unemployment scares, or whatever it might be, bank rates are awful, things like that, you can take that money out and put it into your own IRA and into a guaranteed income for life plan, yet still be working
Correct.
where you are. So we have a lot of those clients that come to us to say, hey, I'm finally 59 and a half, right? Because they
Correct.
know that age, right?
Correct.
I'm finally 59 and a half. I want to clean this up. I want to take that money out of there, put it into a guaranteed income stream that is waiting on me for when I retire in here, say 5, 6, 7 years.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, one of the major things is, and we said this in the beginning, Matt, is there can be multiple kind of catalysts to cause you to really look at this. One of the sad ones and scary ones is if you're forced to leave because of the employer needs to lay off people. That's not a great one to think about. People are going through it right now, so that's why we bring it up. A positive one is somebody reaching the age where they've built that nest egg up. They're beyond that 59 and a half threshold that the IRS looks at, and they're able to look at their own environment, their own situation, the plan that they want, and be able to take the opportunity to capitalize that and take control of what they can control and utilize it in a way and go sit down with an advisor and say, what options do I have? How can I utilize this? And is right now a great time to do A or B or C? And how can I best achieve that for the plans that I've laid out? Now's a great time to do that because, as you said, Matt, now might be a time where maybe the underlying economy, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, the underlying economy and the stock market that we use is sometimes, wrongly so, but we use as the barometer for if we're feeling good or not feeling good. That's tied to
the red
that.
and the greens.
The red and the green that you see on the screen. Maybe the next 10 years doesn't look like the last 10 years.
Correct.
So now is the time to evaluate the savings that you have, the different vehicles that it's in, and start to say, maybe we can take this, take a plan, and start to take control of what we can control and talk about that and set that out.
And that's
perfectly.
And that's perfect. And that's exactly what we do here at Income for Life. And if you've listened to our other podcasts before, especially when we're talking about the 3 C's of the checkbooks and the calendars and the clock, the goal of the 3 C's and the goal here with every one of our clients that work with us here at Income for Life is to have that moment of, okay, I'm good. Right? I'm safe. I have my income plan set. I have my guaranteed income for life set. So a lot of our clients, when they do hit that 59 and a half age or whatever, they could come to us and they can say, hey, I can now finally roll that IRA out of that account. I can finally move this 401k. I want to put it into something that is safe, guaranteed, can grow, lifetime income, all the goodies that we talk about all the time.
Built for the purpose that I want to use it for in the next 5 or 10 years.
Exactly. But I don't need to access it for another 6 years or 7 years or whatever. But I want to clean it up and make it safe right now and have it, in essence, on layaway for 7 years down the road.
Yep.
And we have that all the time, and especially right now in this COVID time, because it is so volatile, it's so aggressive. What's going to happen? Election year, all these things that are going. So a lot of people come to us and are trying to get that money out of there as quickly as they can because of the risk associated with it. And then there's the younger people that are like, no, I'm fine. I'm just going to let it grow and do what I want to do with it.
The ups and downs of the market actually can help them buy low and sell high and all that kind of stuff. But when time is not on your side, now we want to look at other options than just changing your investments inside of your corporate retirement plan.
Correct.
Not just going to cash or bonds or you trying to make those decisions or evaluate your options within your plan, which advisors can help you even when you're young, evaluate those options and kind of figure out what's opportune for your risk tolerance within that. But when you start to get close to retirement, you need to look beyond those options and understand the full array of opportunities and strategies and tactics that you can play and utilize to achieve the goals that you want.
And I think the purpose of today's show is to really let people understand that if you are in this scenario right now, whether it is by your choice or by someone else's choice, you have a very unique opportunity here. You have a very unique opportunity to take control of that 401k or 403b or whatever retirement account your employer was offering you. You have an opportunity now that you did not have previously. Leaving an employer is scary. I understand that, whether they're making you leave or you choose to leave. There's a lot of things mentally that go along with that are frightening. But the retirement account doesn't have to be. This is a very strong opportunity for you to do something for you and do something for your future that you can really control. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree 100%. And as we've said from the beginning, there can be some scary opportunities within this that cause us to evaluate our situation and look at these things. They don't have to be. It's not all doom and gloom. It's about looking at an opportunity as an opportunity, taking control of what you can control, finding the best options that you have there. And again, when we walk through these 4 options, they're also available on the website. But when we look at cashing it out, some of the options that aren't as great, cashing it out, leaving it there, start to get into some opportunities that have some upside of rolling it over from one corporate plan to another corporate plan, or if you're of the age and opportunity, rolling it into an IRA. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at that, but options are on your side. If a catalyst, no matter if it's you choosing, somebody else choosing for you, it's not all bad. Look at the opportunity you have in front of you, talk to an expert about it, talk to somebody that you trust, and we can help walk you through what's best in your situation.
And when you're talking about this, maybe this applies to you, right? Maybe you're listening right now and you're like, my God, that's me. Yes. Right there. There's also a chance that it is not you, but it is somebody you know, right?
Great point.
Your neighbor, somebody you sit next to at church, a family member that just got laid off or is 59 and a half looking for a retirement account.
Has had questions, yeah.
This applies all across the board. And it's not going to go away. These choices are always going to be here. It's just right now it's very tough because, again, when we're facing all of these layoffs, and I know we keep talking about the education system, but that's happening.
And it's only going to get worse,
We know this is happening. The math on the education system does not work without kids on campus, okay? Yep. So we know that this is coming. The airlines, all of these other places, maybe a smaller organization that still has a 401k plan. It doesn't have to be just, I work for American Airlines, so therefore this is available to me. No, it's also available to anybody that has a 401k or a retirement plan option.
Correct.
So this is going to be applying all across the board. So today's show hopefully gave you a little bit of a glimpse into those four choices that Nick and I just talked about. And again, those four choices are on our website in detail at incomeforlife.org. So if you are driving down the road right now, all you have to do is go check it out at incomeforlife.org and give us a call. We take these calls all over the country. We'll walk you through exactly what we're talking about. I don't care if you live in Oregon all the way down to Miami and everywhere in between. If you're listening and you can hear this, then we can help you. So, and we'll explain it to you in a way that makes sense. Now, we're going to wrap up our show today like we typically do at the end of every one of our shows. We didn't get to Pat again.
Unfortunately, he's been busy. They've had a couple games in a row.
And I feel bad because we keep bumping future Hall of Famer Pat Mahomes from our show because we just don't have time to get to him. And I feel bad about that. One of these days, we'll get him on the show.
Well, he's busy leading the 2-0 Chiefs.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And, we got a big game coming up here. Got a big Monday night game coming up.
You got it.
So, we apologize again to future Hall of Famer, MVP, Super Bowl champion, Pat Mahomes. We will do our best to try to get you on the next show, Pat. But sadly,
we look forward to it. Yeah.
The invitation's there.
Correct.
All the time. Jump on anytime you want, Pat. But again, thank you very much for listening to the Income for Life show today. These are your hosts, Matt and Nick. Hopefully, we provided a little bit of education and some common sense ideas when it comes to proper retirement planning. Definitely visit us at incomeforlife.org to listen to other older podcasts that we have and to gain information and insights about proper retirement planning so that when you retire, you can stay retired. Thank you for listening. Have yourself a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Income for Life show. If you have any questions about something we talked about today or want to get in touch with the Income for Life team, just give a call to 833-450-3068. That's 833-450-3068. You can also go online to incomeforlife.org and check the description of today's show for any relevant resources and contact information. You can also find the podcast on all major podcasting apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and many more locations. The Income for Life show is powered by Folds of Honor, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to providing educational scholarships to the families of America's fallen and disabled service members. For more information, visit foldsofhonor.org. Information provided on today's show is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information is obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified professional before taking any action.